I was literally overwhelmed by the beauty of having children. It was just, this was the seventh, so it's not brand new to me, but, and I wanted my sons and my daughters who are older to really be connected to, there is nothing more beautiful than bringing children into this world and loving them. And I was tearing, and I was like, I got to give my kids this now while I'm feeling it.
What is up, my friends? Welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, where I interview incredible fathers, gaining wisdom from their stories for you and I to grow in our craft. I'm your guide, Ned Shout, father to 5 kiddos, currently ages 10 to 17, and husband to my rad wife, Sarah, working on our 20th year of marriage. So yep, I'm in the thick of it, and I am working daily to rebel against the low expectations for fathers and create a world where fathers know who they are as they show up for their families. You and I have the greatest opportunity to impact our world through the way we embrace our fatherhood role. This episode is brought to you by the Adventure of Fatherhood, helping men discover their powerful fatherhood role and build their fatherhood skills. The role of the father is to serve, guide, provide, protect, and of course, find joy and have fun in the messiness of it all. Today's guest is my friend Joshua Weir, and we talk about fatherhood being the highest call on your life, having a vision for your family, and how to love going home. Enjoy meeting my friend, Joshua. Joshua Weir, welcome to the podcast. How are you today, my friend?
Excellent. Thank you so much, man.
Dude, it's so good to see your face. I mean, you were just at my house maybe a few weeks ago. I got to meet your son. We had a great time just talking life. So now here we are, a couple weeks later on a video call, talking fatherhood once again.
I love it. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So check this out. You and I met this year. So just kind of for the listeners to hear, you and I met this year. We were going to this men's event that kind of this like eclectic group from all over the place was invited to. Some of us were in a chat and we're all meeting in Colorado. And so we're like, who's landing at the same time at the airport? I had rented a car. You and 2 other gentlemen just happened to all land at the same time. And so we had this, 2-hour drive, I think, from the airport to Breckenridge. And the moment that you shared something with us, I knew I got to have this guy on my podcast. You have a buttload of kids, which we'll talk about. But what you did in this, we're having this like deep connection together. You got to imagine, guys, we're driving through just like beautiful country, all love God, love being husbands and fathers, and we're talking about this. And so then Joshua pulls out his camera or phone, is like, I want to share this video. He had just recently had a kid, and right at the hospital or right after having the child, you filmed yourself talking about, pretty much in tears, talking about being a father and family and what it meant. And you sent this just to your family, and you shared it with us. And it was just so rad to so quickly come to this moment of connection with you. So maybe tell us a little bit about that video and about that moment that you filmed yourself talking about fatherhood and sent that to your family.
Yeah, love to. So first of all, I so appreciate you, Ned, because honestly, that was very vulnerable. I didn't know any of you guys, right? 3 dudes all in a Jeep, and I'm sharing a video where I'm crying, basically. So it was great, though. All of you guys were very open and welcomed that. But so I just had my 7th child, and I was in the hospital, obviously, wife, baby, and me. And it was just, I was literally overwhelmed by the beauty of having children. It was just, this was the 7th, so it's not brand new to me, but, and I wanted my sons and my daughters who are older, I have older children, 10 to 20, to really be connected to, there is nothing more beautiful than bringing children into this world and loving them. And I was tearing, and I was like, I got to give my kids this now while I'm feeling it. And so, yeah, that was, and they all watched it and loved it. And I just want them to get it.
Yeah. So tell me about their reception of that, right? I mean, you have a 20-year-old who's off kind of like starting some of their life. Not that, starting their own thing. How is that for them that you're having another child and then, like, do they feel a part of it? I guess is part of the question.
Yeah, no, I would say, I'll give you the quick. I got a 20-year-old, 18-year-old, 12-year-old, 10-year-old, 3-year-old, 2-year-old, and a 6-month-old. So that's my
Yikes,
stretch.
Bro.
Yes. And the hope is to have more. So, but anyways, my 20-year-old and my 18-year-old are just geeked out. I mean, they love the little babies. I mean, they both want to have lots and lots of kids. And so anytime I do this, and this is the first time I've ever done a video, obviously from the hospital to them, but my older ones, and even my 10 and 12-year-old, they watched it the moment I sent it. And all of them just,
Mm,
they just, they've bought in, like they've bought into like family is it. I was on a date with my 12-year-old. This is probably 2 months ago, and she's a super gifted designer, interior designer. So I was laying something out for her. I was just trying to give her a scenario. I said, her name's Tinsley. Tinsley, what if you were like one of the best designers in the world and you had multiple millions of dollars, you fill in the blank, in the bank, but your relationship with your kids was average at best and your relationship with your husband was just kind of okay. How does that sound to you? And she literally
mm,
said, that sucks. And I was so loved because she gets it. She's like, I could have everything, but
yeah.
if I don't have a great relationship with my husband and my kids, I've got nothing, you know? So yeah.
So why, right? Like, why is family it? I mean, obviously that question does paint a picture, right? Where your kid goes, I mean, all of us would go, yeah, that does make sense, right? If I could be the world's best X, Y, or Z compared to having a great relationship with my wife and our kids, I start to understand that. But why have so many kids? Why say you want to have more? It's somewhat countercultural. I mean, I have guys on the podcast that have a lot of kids just because they, whatever happens, but why? Why? I think people wonder that. So curious for you, what's your reasoning?
So I guess, I mean, well, there's, I think, probably multiple levels. I'll go with the heartfelt, like right out of the gates, is because of my own experience. So I run a successful development construction company. I've had some pretty big wins there. Um, I, I've done some other things. I've been a part of different ministries, had some great losses and some wins. But the truth of the matter is, literally nothing even holds a candle to the beauty and the what I feel like what I feel in here in my soul when I'm connected to my sons and my daughters, when my family's around the table, when we're on some kind of event adventure together. Like there's nothing that even comes close. Any of my previous successes don't even like hold a candle to it. Like so to me it's kind of a felt reality. Like I know this is true. Um, so I don't know if that's answering kind of the question, but
Well, yeah, no. So yes, let me dig into this, and I'm kind of skipping around some of my initial questions, so I'll come back to them. But I understand, and I know this is true, but why do you feel that some men don't experience that? To what level are they maybe so focused on their career, so focused on like the outside circumstances of life that they're not fully being present to that connection to the family? What's the holdup for more men not to feel this or know this?
okay. So I would say two things come to mind right away. First of all, culture slash church, whatever you want to say, doesn't elevate the
Okay.
call. I mean, so if you're a church
Mm,
guy or if you're just a whatever guy in culture, neither are elevating father or husband or mother or wife. They just don't elevate it as a primary call. They elevate being a baller in this, being this. I mean, they elevate everything else. If you're in church, being a missionary,
yeah.
if you're in the world, being some kind of baller in some arena. But nobody's saying, listen, there's no higher call. So that's number one. Two,
Mm,
at least dudes, and this was my story, is it's so hard, quite if we're being honest, to really be connected to our kids, like heartfelt connected, and to our spouse. It's very difficult to be present. It's a lot easier to be engaged in kind of the drive, the grind. You can just throw yourself into that. Whereas kind of playing with your 2 year old
yeah.
or hanging with your 12-year old is way harder. And nobody's really, I don't think many people are elevating that call. So the hard work to be present is really, really not happening because it's hard freaking work.
Yeah. Okay. So what is that work? So how, if someone's listening to this, they're like, dude, Josh, I hear you. I want it. what are some, and dudes need like manuals, right? Like, just tell me how to do it. So what would you say is some of the tools to become present with your family?
Well, so two quick stories. One is, so in my construction company, there's probably 25 guys that are on my team that are out in the field, like superintendents, project managers. So I just started
Yeah.
doing this thing on Thursdays where they come in for 10 minutes of, it's called Strong Men, how to be a strong father, husband, all that. And the response has been pretty cool. Meaning, I've had like 12 guys show up the last 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks old, whatever. But I got this
Nice.
text. Check this text out, and I'm going to read it to you. And so one of the guys that's part of my company said, "Hey, man, can you record these little 10-minute teachings and send it to me? Because I got a couple buddies who'd like to hear it." I said, "Sure." So he sent me this text yesterday, and this is the text. I like what he's saying, being me. The point he made about dedicating time to your wife and children for eye contact, right,
Hmm.
is something
Hmm.
I've never heard. It's something I've never even thought about or checked myself on when communicating with my wife all day. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, this is like basic 101 in my mind. Like, hey, eye contact, look at your wife, look at your son, look at your daughter, just give them and he's saying, I've never literally heard about it or even thought about it when I'm
Yep.
with my wife all day long. So I think so part of it is no one's been given the vision, right?
Hmm.
So people have been given the vision of, hey, look for small opportunities to connect with your wife and connect with your husband. So that's one. The second thing that comes to mind, go ahead.
Who told you to have eye contact with your wife?
See, that's a great question. Honestly, I don't know.
But do you think somebody did tell you that?
Definitely, 100%. I've
Okay,
probably had,
so yeah, so I want to hear the second thing, but I think what I'm wanting to point out is like you are teaching other men something
yep,
that a man taught you,
bingo.
right? Right. And so men, even though we don't feel like we have it all together, we will never feel that way. Teach what you do know to
Yeah,
someone else. And
yeah,
so and when you do that, like when you're teaching these men, you're not teaching from this I have it figured out place. You're taking it from like I have stuff to learn, but I have stuff to teach. But it also calls you to a higher standard, right? Because when you know that now 12 to 25 men are watching you because you're
yep,
putting yourself out there as let me teach you about eye contact with your wife, then now you are going to live it to a higher standard, right?
100%, 100%. Yes. And that's what's bizarre
Love it. Okay. Mm,
is the fact. I mean, again, back to this text from this dude. It's like the fact that he's never even thought about it is just. It's
right.
honestly kind of hard for me to wrap my head around. But I think that's very normal. That's
Right.
not
Right.
unusual.
Right. So what was the second thing?
So second thing is I think just the wounding that we have as men,
Mm,
which is you name it, wounding from when we were little, when we were middle school, whatever, from our fathers, from whoever, and it causes us not to be very present. We're just disconnected and all that. So I remember this is another story, but I still remember so vividly. I was at a restaurant and I was with my wife and I was just weeping, literally, like embarrassingly, in this public restaurant because I had just been at Banana Republic with my wife, and we weren't with our kids, but I was watching this dad, and he was so present to his kids while his wife was trying some on. And I
mm,
was watching him, and I just felt
mm.
like I will never be like that. I so want to be like
Huh.
that, but I will never be like that dad. And I literally just broke at dinner and just crying and crying. And so now that was 15 years ago. I'm not that dad anymore. I am present. Like I'm able to be present with my children. So I guess I think there needs to be an awareness. Like what's keeping people? I think even knowing, dude, I am not
Yep.
present. I can't connect with my wife in a way that she needs me to, or my kids.
So awareness number one, two is practice. And then just, I want to get your opinion on this because this has been more uh, coming to the light for me that practice isn't transformation, but it leads to transformation. Like one day, you're going to start noticing that you are just more present because you've been practicing being present.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I wish there was a one-time boom event that you could
Yeah.
do to take you from being disconnected to present, but I've never heard of it. I've never experienced it.
And I just had this incredible dude on the podcast, Dan Tacchini, talking about marriage, and he was saying marriage is a crucible. It's an opportunity to grow up. And if you think about fathering and being a husband, it isn't supposed to be this one-off thing. It's supposed to be this lifetime journey of 50, 60 years. Because I think the reason why we want the quick fix is like, let me just figure out the quick fix so I can just be present with my family so I can get back to the things I want to do during my time. Do
That's
you know what I
right.
mean?
Yes. Yes.
Versus, wait a second, I need to wrestle through this. And then I love this, the vision. Nobody's given them the freedom really to have a vision for what it means to be a father, to be a husband.
Yeah, I mean that's the way anything is, right? If you're hearing it all the time, this is really hot. This is a high call. This is awesome. This is beautiful. Then you begin to say, maybe there is something to this. But if nobody is giving you any kind of idea that there's something great about being there's something so satisfying about being a father. Well, who's talking about that? If so, nobody's talking about it, then
Yeah.
what I think is satisfying is having $1 million in the bank. So that's what I'm going to drive towards. And yeah,
Right.
of course, I need to be a good dad. Yeah. I need to be a good husband. But what's really satisfying is having $1 million in the bank. So that's what I'm going to drive towards. But if we have people like you, which you are, and I love this about you, Ned, is elevating the call to be a dad, to be a husband. It's like beautiful. That's why when we were in the Jeep, I was like, oh my gosh, because I don't hang out with people like you, Ned. Like I hang out with a lot of dudes, and I mean, it is, I don't know, 1 in 500, probably more than that, that really are set up like you are. Like, man, let's grow as fathers. Let's grow as
Yeah.
husbands. Like nobody's talking about it. So
Yeah, man, that's the point. That's the point of what we're doing. And I think that this just brings up, like, I don't know about you, but come December, January, I like to reflect on the past year and think about the new year and like have vision around business and life and fitness goals and whatnot. And I just love this verse, Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people perish. And like you said, when the world isn't casting a vision for family, church isn't necessarily casting this distinct vision for family, the people perish. So look around. Look around. We're desperate for leadership. We're desperate for connection. We're desperate for belonging, things that all happen in the home to start, right? So men, who's responsible? We talk about like toxic masculinity or whatever BS people are talking about, but who's responsible to cast the vision for your home? You are.
yep, that's right. That's right.
You are.
100.
What does your family look like in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? That weight is on you, my friend. So cast some vision and start moving towards it. No one's going to do it for you.
That's right. That's right. And honestly, this is the thing that I'm 2 weeks in with these guys in my company. But I'm just like, these guys were leaning in. It's 10 minutes. It was super, super easy, right? But it was like pen drop. Everyone was, and it wasn't, my content was fine. It wasn't anything dramatic. It was super basic stuff like Atomic Habits, 1% Change, all that. But it was like,
Yeah.
these guys are so hungry. Like, God, I just feel like, man,
Yeah.
there's so many hungry men, but nobody's feeding them any kind of diet that has anything to do with, dude, here's how you can be a better husband. Hey, here's how you can be a better father. Like, where it's so I'm beating the horse here, but it's I believe guys are ready, man. They're ready. And one other thing, because I want to make sure I don't forget to say this, and it goes back to the original question. You said, well, what are some practical ways to kind of be
Yeah.
this better father and husband? So, and I don't know, we didn't talk, Ned. I don't know your audience as far as, some of them I think will have faith, some of them won't.
Yep.
What I'm going to say here is about Jesus, but what's cool is I've actually shared this with people who have no faith and it works for them. So here's what it's called. It's called welcoming prayer. And all it is it's acknowledging kind of your state. So if your state is, dude, I am so disconnected from my 3-year-old, I want to blow my brains out when he wants to play Legos again or whatever. Like, if we're being
yeah. We all been there. We all been
right?
there.
But we don't want to be. So the question is, what do we do? Sometimes it's
Yeah.
just, well, just keep playing Legos, and that's good. But what if there is a path And we talk about Jesus, those of us who know or love Jesus, but how practical is this thing? It's called welcoming prayer. And here's what do. You have something going on. You don't like what's going on in the inside of your soul with your son, with your daughter, your wife. And it's real simple. Jesus, I welcome you into this place in my soul. I'm asking you to touch it. The language doesn't matter, but you're simply inviting Jesus into that place. Now, and here's what's crazy, Ned. I've literally shared this with an atheist guy. He was a buddy of mine who had no faith, and then a super agnostic lady who was a massage therapist for me. Both of them, I just said, listen, you don't need to care about Jesus or love Jesus, but do this prayer. And one of them did it with her husband because she was having major issues with her husband, and the other did it with his girlfriend. And they both came to me and said, Joshua, this works. And I've been doing it. I started this about 10 years, maybe 12 years ago. And this is like the two things people say, hey, what are two things I can do? There's only two things that I say. One is be a guy that reads the word. I know that's old fashioned, but be a scripture guy. Even if you're not a Christian, who cares? Read the scripture. Beautiful book. The second thing is this welcoming prayer. Jesus, I feel like strangling my wife. Jesus, I know that's not good. And I invite you into that place. And I just watched it slowly heal my soul. Like I'm just a present dad. Like, I mean, I am I love going home, getting with my kids. It's like, I used to not be connected. I would do it. That's what good dads do. You go home. Hey, son. Hey, daughter. Hey, wife. Now my heart is able to be engaged because, again, obviously there's lots of things we have to do, but the welcoming prayer, Jesus, I invite you into this pain. I invite you into this anger. I invite you into this shame. I invite you into this lust. I invite you into this disconnect. So I wanted to make sure I said that because that's just, oh my gosh, so huge.
Yeah. I mean, what I hear in that is I hear a vulnerability with yourself, right? You're acknowledging, you're bringing something to the light, right? Like I want to strangle my wife or I'm feeling lust, right? So you're not letting something fester inside you. You're personally bringing it to light. And then two, to some degree, you're acknowledging whether you believe in God or not, you're acknowledging that to some level, you're not the king of the universe. Like this isn't just about you. You're humbling yourself to the possibility that there's that life is bigger than Ned or bigger than Josh, right? And that I think is just such a way to become present in the here and now. Like I'm not in the future, I'm not in the past, but I'm right here, right now. And my mentor, I meet with every 2 weeks, which I highly encourage. Like have somebody that you meet with, so that you can get all your junk out. Is everything you need, God will provide you in this moment right here, right now. Not what he could have did yesterday or not what you hope for him to do tomorrow, but what everything you need right now in this exact moment is available to you.
Yes.
I love it.
It's
I love
so
it.
hard.
Oh,
It's so hard to believe that and so hard to practice that. And again, back to Christianity, church stuff. I was actually a pastor for a long time, so I've got a unique. I'm not anti-church. Yeah, exactly. I know you've been there, done that. I'm not anti-church. I'm not anti-Christianity. I love Jesus. I think churches.
I know. I was just making a joke.
But man, I'll tell you, there's such a disconnect. I think specifically for men in the church to have practical access to what does it look like to be strong, loving, tender, all that, yes, but to be strong and to be present. There's man, we're not giving tools. So this welcoming prayer thing, again, I'm going to bring it up again. It's just such a simple, basic. I practice it multiple times a week, every week, and I have for at least 10 years, if not more, because it just works. It just works.
Yeah.
So.
Dig it. Yeah. And I'll just say, I wrote my original book on fatherhood because I was sitting in church one day and I was kind of looking around at the dudes who were sitting there. And other than the 1% who are just jacked to get there at, an hour before to set up chairs and pass the tithe things around, which cool, great. I'm like, why are these dudes here? What about this other than their wife dragging them here, or they feel like they should be here for their kids? What's the I'm waking up because I'm psyched to go. And I just feeling like that wasn't there for them. And so that's what led me to write the book and which is really about that what we want most deeply, like to be respected, valued, needed, loved, and leave a mark on this world, comes
Yes.
from embracing fatherhood. And in fatherhood, I mean marriage and kids and the whole family situation, which is exactly what you're talking about. Elevate the highest call. The highest call is this. Like when you're laying on your deathbed, we all know it to be true. Like what will matter most, dude, that I'm holding the hand of this bride that I've had for 60 years, that I'm seeing kids and grandkids and maybe great grandkids. But are our actions today a reflection of that guy? Like in most instances, it doesn't connect. So there's this deep longing for that, but the actions today don't line up with us moving towards being that man, you know?
That's right. That's right.
So that vision needs to come alive. All right, bro, I love this stuff, and I'm sure we'll come back to this. Here we go. Question for you. How old do you find yourself today?
49.
49 years old. How many
Yep.
years you been married?
6.
6 years married and 7 kids. Man, you
So it's my second marriage, which I think is another thing I would love to just throw out there.
yeah,
You
let's
know,
hear it.
I think so. I was married 10 years to my first wife, had our first 2 boys. We got divorced in 2014, 2012, we got split in 12, divorced in 14, got remarried in 2018. So my current wife has 2 children from her previous marriage. So she has 2, I have 2, then we've had 3 together. So we are what's called
Wow.
a blended family, which is super, super hard. We read a lot of books on it because we heard a lot of people talk about it. But I just think there's a lot of dudes that have been divorced and
Yeah.
maybe are going to be remarried or potentially be remarried. And I just want to say you can have a blended family that works. And I don't know of many because there's not a whole lot of people, but
So
go
tell
ahead.
me, if this was a podcast, or say I was sitting down with you to go, man, I'm about to get married, remarried, and I got kids, she's got kids, and we want to have some of our own. What's the one thing you'd say? Lean into this, Ned, and be aware of this. What would be just those 2 nuggets you would give me?
Well, first is know that it's going to be really, really hard. You got to just like know that out of the gates. To take siblings that aren't blood and actually act like you are, because that's what it is. It's a total act in the beginning. You have to know there's going to be all kinds of dynamics. And so that's number one, is know that it's going to be really hard and say, I'm still signing, like you're in love with your, fiance or, it's going to all work out. No, it's not. It's going to suck. It's going to be so hard. Your kids aren't going to like each other.
I like
Her
that.
kids, her kids aren't really going to like you as much as you may think they do. And your kids aren't going to like her as much as you think they will, because guess what? That's not their mom or you're not their dad, right? It's all of that stuff. So you've got to go in eyes super wide open. So that's number one. And then
Yep.
2, if you are not already game on intentional man, like you are intentional. What I mean by intentional is you get home from work, hey, we're going to sit down, we're going to have dinner together. Hey, this weekend we're going to go do an event together. Hey, we're going to go on vacation together. Hey, we're going to have an open meeting and talk about what's going on. Hey, my boys, her girls, hey boys, how are you feeling about Ruthie? Honest. You can sit and they thought they didn't like her. I mean, they didn't like her, but they had to have
Yeah.
a free. You have to be so intentional. But if you keep at it and keep at it and keep at it, I mean, obviously no guarantees, but man, you can blend. Like they don't feel like separate siblings anymore. They're not step brothers and sisters. They love. I mean, they literally love each other. They adore each other.
So in the moments where you allowed your boys, because this is you and your perspective, in the moments you allowed your boys to say, I don't like X, Y, or Z about her,
Yep.
how did you respond to them? How'd you respond to them?
Gave him total. Well, one is I just acknowledged she is not your mom. I never tried to I said she's not your mom. This is super weird, and you should never have been put in this situation. So I just acknowledged the reality. Like you're being put in a
Got it.
situation.
Yeah.
Oldest Jonathan and Caleb. this is wrong. This is so weird and backwards and because it is. This is super twisted that you have to live with a different woman as my wife and as your stepmom. So I just gave him like total freedom to like let it rip. And then I just let it be. I didn't try. I mean, I would give them perspective like, hey, like, I'll give you a real example. They said, man, Ruthie's like, she's stuck up. Like, you were making her, we had to carry her bags all around New York. And what they didn't know is that she didn't ask. She was very uncomfortable with them doing that. But I made them do it because I was trying to teach them to be gentlemen. But anyways, they thought she wanted them to do it. So it was great. They got to be honest. Like, man, she's stuck up, man. She's not even willing to carry her own bags. So I think just giving total freedom to share, honestly.
Okay, so a flips or another question of this, and then I won't beat a dead horse. We can move on. But how, in giving them freedom to speak freely to you, to say, Dad, she's stuck up, in the same light, did you have them respect her? Right. So it sounds like they had freedom to speak to you, but how did you call them into interacting with her?
So so what I just said, because they loved me, they loved me back then. I said, guys, I'm not expecting you to love her because you love her, but you guys love me and I love her. So I'm asking you as an act of love to your dad to show her respect and not love her. You can't make yourself love her, but just respect her, honor her, because when you don't, it hurts me. And so I was appealing to their connection to me to honor her versus, hey, you should honor her because she's honorable, which is true, and it worked. I mean, it wasn't easy, but it worked. They were very respectful and honored her, and yeah. So
yeah. Beautiful, man. All right. Where do you guys live as a family?
We are in Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio. And then you shared you're in the construction business. You've been in that most of your life. And then are any of your kids, looking to move into working on that with you?
Yes, I've had this company for 20 years, and no, so my older ones have all worked with me, but my oldest he really likes flipping cars, and working on cars. So he's going to start a dealership. And then my 18-year-old, he's just doesn't care right now. He's going off to YWAM. Actually, he's going to be visiting you in Kona here in April. So, and then Jonathan's just leaving Kona. So he's just leaving Kona tomorrow. So, yeah.
Love it, man. Now, when did you embrace fatherhood? So I know we talked about this a little bit. You said that there's this moment, 15 years ago where you kind of felt like, I'm not as present, or I can't be this present. Was that when you embraced the importance of fatherhood, or was there some other season of life where you said fatherhood is the highest call?
I honestly haven't thought about when I really transitioned to, wow, this is the highest call. Honestly, I think I've only put language to it within the last couple of years of it being the highest call. I mean, 15 years ago when I'm crying, I was aware of the inner desire to be connected to my children and the disconnect that I had. So I was super aware then, but I don't think I had this language because, again, I was so steeped in culture and church at that time that I just kept elevating $1 million in the bank and being some kind of cool influencer missionary, right? So I think that's evolved just within the last couple of years, and I don't know why. I'm not sure why, but actually, you know what? I think I do know why. Because I've had 3 kids in the last 3 years. So I've got my older kids, my middle step kids. Now I've got 3 brand new kids, 3, 2, and 5, and I think I've just been reacquainted I'm being reintroduced to the beauty of fatherhood and being a husband in a healthy marriage, and it's just helped me see, like, dude, there's nothing better than this. So yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask this because, okay, so 49 years old and you've had the success of business, right? Not only are you making cool stuff and there's like a financial reward to that, but then there's also, you've had the experience of, there were probably moments as a pastor where you're getting off stage and, oh my gosh, Josh, you're so, like you're so great, whatever. So you've had the church and the world's definition of success.
Yes.
and then also the failed marriage in that, right? Or whatever, however you would dictate the marriage, ending.
Yep.
Do you think that those three things played into the fulfillment that most of us think we'll get at, say, the church or the world's levels? You didn't find them. And so there, for whatever reason, the realization that it comes from family presented itself to you.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, Ned. I think, well, one, so I've failed kind of in everything. So I failed in marriage, I failed in ministry, and I failed in business. So I've failed in all three, and I think,
But let me ask this though: in the failure, did you also find massive success in those things too? Was there
yeah,
massive success?
yes, that's I guess the point. It's like, and everyone talks about this as like cliche, like, oh, fail forward, blah blah, all that stuff. But there really is something
Yeah, yeah,
to when you fail, but you stay in it. So to, like, obviously my marriage ended. I couldn't stay in that, but when you fail,
right.
but you stay in the heat and the pain and working through it, man, it gives you a perspective that is totally different. So back to your statement, and even something I'm realizing is not getting someone to say, dude, your message was awesome, or man, that restaurant you just built is beautiful, or whatever,
Yeah,
whatever those things are. Again, it's like comparing something that is from a different universe that's so glorious
yeah,
to some a blade of grass. Like the children and
yeah,
the marriage, just the perspective of failing and now being in something that's so full and rich, like my family times, my meals around the table. We're getting ready to go away for 2 weeks on Sunday just to be together as a family. Like those kind of things, I'm just like, nothing touches it, but I can feel it. I can taste it because I've
hmm.
experienced failings and I've experienced sweet things that have, I think, yeah, I think you're right. Those have allowed me to see what I'm seeing now with much more clarity than I ever would have without the fails.
So let me ask this question. When you say I can feel it and I can taste it, I think sometimes, maybe especially as like a young dad, we have this ideal of like, oh man, Josh is sitting around this table and his kids grab their food and they're sitting there all looking at the head of the table, just so excited for their dad to sit down and pray and hold hands, and like they're going to go on this vacation, and every day everyone wakes up, Dad, where are we going, what are we doing, Dad, you're the best, you planned the best trip ever. Yeah,
That's
you're
right.
already laughing, right?
Yeah.
So the feel and the taste, it's like, it's not the same as a beautifully constructed new restaurant. It's not the same as this perfectly constructed message I gave on Advent season on a Christmas Eve. It's like
Right.
super freaking messy, right?
Yes.
So how is the fullness and the fulfillment of being a husband and a father in a home fulfilling in the messiness? Like, talk to me
I
about
love
that.
it. Beautiful. So I love this whole idea of learning to live in the mundane, and not just live.
Mm,
We all, all right, let me say it a little differently, because we all live in the mundane because you can't get away from it, but actually embracing and enjoying the mundane. So I've got, since I
mm,
have three and under, there'll be many nights that I'm up multiple times because, Ruthie's got the infant, but I got the other two. So I could be waking up because the
yeah,
infant's crying, then waking up because my 2-year-old is crying, and then waking up. I mean, this has happened multiple times. So I'm up 5 times in the middle of the night, and I got to be at work in the morning. But what? So that's mess, right? But there's something, again. I think
totally.
this is the whole, like, let it burn and like face it, like it sucks.
Mm,
But then, well, hold on. Is there a way? Is there a place where I can enjoy and embrace the table? And it's crazy. The table's crazy because my 2-year-old's jumping up and she falls down, cracks her head, like what happened
yeah,
last night. Or, like, it's not all peace and just harmony. But is there a
yeah,
place,
yeah,
maturity? Has someone given me, again, back to vision? Has someone given me a vision that I may not be there, but I could be mature enough to wake up 3 or 4 or 5 times in the middle of the night and actually embrace and say, I'm all in. Like, that's a vision that I may
yeah,
not
yeah,
be there, but
yeah,
it gives me the vision that I'm at least shooting for it. It's like going to the gym and I'm fat and out of shape, but man, I know I've seen my buddy get freaking ripped. I'm going to keep at it and I'm eventually going to get ripped. It's that. It's like, wait a second,
Yeah.
Joshua, you mean you actually enjoy the dinner table? Yeah, I love it. And it's crazy and it's messy and I love it. But I've learned, I've grown, I've matured,
Mm.
into that place. And so
It's
vacation,
almost like, go ahead.
we're going to leave on Sunday. We're going to drive. We drive 12 hours. Well, we'll split it up, 6 and 6. And it's going to be crazy at different points in the car. One of them is going to be screaming. It's going to, but I literally, it's some of my favorite time. But why? Because I've found that is where the life is. Like it's in that stuff.
Yes.
But it's,
Yes.
but I had to have vision for it to even like, it's not just about getting to the destination. Like this totally, again, I'm overplaying the analogy, but it's the trip. Like literally the van. We
Yeah.
pile in a van.
It's the
It's
trip.
just that's what it's about. So yeah.
Well, I mean, as you're saying it, yes, we hear it's about or it's about the journey, not the destination. But so many of us are living for the destination. We're not living for the moment. And if we can, dads, when shit and hell are breaking loose, to
Yep.
just pause and go, I'm alive right now. Like I'm alive. I'm alive. Let's be here right now. Not And I love the Adam Sandler movie Click, where he has like a remote and he fast forwards through like everything so he can just get to the most important things. I think it's such a great story of like not fast forwarding through your life. But
Yes.
just dads, if we could pause at the dinner table or in the car when the kid pukes or whatever happens and just go, I'm alive. This is it. Like,
Yes.
enjoy this. This is joy. Joy and happiness are different. Happiness is like this. I opened a gift and I'm excited for 30 seconds. Joy
Right.
is I'm up for the third time in the middle of the night and I'm looking to my child's eyes and I'm like, dude, this
Yeah.
matters.
Yes. And I want to say this too, Ned. I think that's so key what you're saying. And if you can't get there, right? You're just pissed. Like you're up in the middle of the night, you're just pissed, or you're
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
whatever. You're freaking out because everybody else at the table's freaking out. If you can't get to that place of being present, again, just simply acknowledging that you aren't and that you want to be, and being humble enough to say it even to your kids and to your wife. Hey, I'm super disconnected right now, and I want to like. I'm telling you, you said the word. There's something about just like walking into a place of being vulnerable, of like, hey, I want to be present, wife, but I'm struggling, dude. That is, there's
Mm,
something that the power of the spirit or whatever you want to call it, the frequency that the power flows on is humility, transparency, and vulnerability. That's the frequency. And if you're just vulnerable
mm,
on it in the moment, like I am so pissed that I'm up a third time in the middle of the night or whatever, but you can just say, oh, I don't want to be. I want to be present. I think it's a short road to starting to taste of being present.
mm. Dude, so good. So good. Um, when you think about the role of the father, what would you describe the role of the father as?
Um, well, again, I'm going to keep using the same word. I think the father has to be able to not be a visionary, like, oh, you have to have this big, grand, story that you are always sharing, but where you yourself are captured enough by the beauty of family that they
Mm,
believe you when you say, hey, this is what it's about. Like, if you don't believe it yourself, it just doesn't transmit. But if you are captured, which again, you got to do your own hard work on your own soul. But if you're, I think the role, one of the primary roles of the father is to capture your wife and your children in the story of we're a family. So my last name's Weir. Like
yeah.
this is Weir family. Like this is so beautiful. This is what do we want the Weir family to be like? Who do we want? Like if I'm into that, like if I'm believing that, just like my company, if I'm like, hey guys, like my company's name is Transform. Hey, like what is Transform about? Like they're gonna be like, they're not gonna be into it. But if I'm fired up because I believe in my company, they're gonna be fired up. So I think, man, the
Yep.
father has to be casting vision, excited about the family himself, and people will follow that. You could lead poorly into the wrong things. But if you're doing it with passion and your heart and you're open and you're honest, man, your family's going to be awesome.
So good. So good. And I want to bring this up because it's a conversation you and I have had a couple times because at that event, we were together for four days or something like that. And sitting around a campfire, I think the conversation came up, and then maybe on a phone call, the conversation came up. But around this idea of kind of looking beyond the four walls of our home right now and thinking about like legacy property or property for grandkids and kids to come back to. Talk to me a little bit about this vision you have for your family in that area, and then maybe share how you've communicated that with your family.
Yeah. So if I would have thought of it, I would have brought the drawing. I have a little drawing. Literally, I'm not a artist at all, but it's a little drawing of a house and like 7 houses around that house. We've got a common playground, a common pool, a common barn with animals, a common all this kind of stuff. And I've just been pitching it to the family for a few years, and they're all into it. Now we don't have it; we just live in a normal suburb. But the vision would be, hey, if we love being together, which we do, let's kind of be intentional about building housing around each other. And whether that's, I think you can accomplish it in so many ways. I think you can accomplish it in a neighborhood, a suburb. I think you can accomplish it by buying a piece of land. But this is so normative in like so many other cultures. You go to the
Yeah.
East. I mean, this is more like, I've got some clients that are Indian, and they have weddings. Well, the small Indian wedding is like 400 people because why? They all live in villages, and all these villages, all the families live right. This is like normal in like the world.
Right.
But in the West, like, oh man, that's weird. Like, you're going to build a compound. No, it's not weird. It's super cool if you have a healthy family. But we've set up a totally different model, which is, hey, I'm going to launch you, son, like 1,000 miles away. I'm going to launch you, daughter. Now, if they're called, then great, go to wherever.
Yeah.
But why do we just launch them in the middle of nowhere to be with nobody they know, to raise a family with nobody to support them? Like, I have 7 kids because I have lots of help. My mom and my dad are there every day, like literally every day. So it's easy. I mean, easy is the wrong word, but it's way easier than someone who doesn't, right? But it's
Yes.
because
Yeah,
I live in
totally.
proximity. So, but if you don't live in proximity, you don't have the benefit of wisdom. I love input from my mom. I love input from my dad. I love input from older generations. Like we should be all having that. So, anyways, yeah. So my vision is to have some kind of
Yeah, man.
home.
Yeah, so I've had a couple guys on the podcast who have done this. A couple guys who've done this. And then, I've started the conversation with my family some. My youngest is 10, my oldest is 17. And it's funny because I would say that our family's pretty independent. Like, we're each independent. Like, I was just gone for 3 days and I didn't really text or talk to anybody too much while I was gone. But then when I came home last night, we all just kind of laid on the couch together for about an hour. Kids came and laid in my bed for another half hour. And there's just like this deep connection. But then we're going to all go do our own thing for the next couple days. So I just share that to go. It's something I love, is our independence. So anyways, I've pitched this to my kids, and some of them, they're like, I don't know, maybe, yeah, we'd like to live close, but I don't know. So I just share that to go, these conversations of doing life together,
Yeah.
I think are important to start talking about with your family. But I also love how you said, hey, if you're called to go do this thing, or you feel this deep passion to go to this or that place, like, I love you and I support you. But the idea is we want to be connected.
Yes, 100%. And the reality is, people want to be connected. I mean, even dysfunctional families. I mean, it depends on how crazily dysfunctional it is, but even dysfunctional families, there's something about blood, man. It's like, it's so real that
Yeah, there's a loyalty there.
yeah,
Yeah.
if the measure of health, you don't have to have a perfect family, a measure of health, man, being closer together around each other is better than not. The statistics bear
Yeah.
that out too. I mean, you look at studies on family and health and longevity, and it's all over the place.
Yeah, and we're starting to talk about it more as a family, just this awareness of, hey, your siblings you're always going to have a connection to your siblings that you're never going to have with someone else. And so think about, as you're planning your life and open to where, you might go, is if you can be friends with somebody and be walking across the street to your neighbor's house for your kids to play, you could do that with some random person, or you could try to do that with your sister or brother. And how much deeper is that connection if it's your sister or your brother versus you just showed up to some random town and random neighbors and did life with them?
That's right. And I don't know, do your kids have
So we're
cousins they
starting to
hang with?
plant those seeds.
Do your kids have
Well, that's the
cousins they hang
thing. It's like they love their cousins, but we moved from California to Hawaii due to my son's, health. So now,
with?
we're in that situation where they're only going to see them twice a year, 3 times a year.
But yeah, I mean, just even that point, there's something about even cousins. I watch my kids and how they interact with their cousins. They're not like all the same.
Mm-hmm.
They're very different. But man, there's something when they get together with their cousins. It's like, it's magic, man. There's
Different
something magic.
connection. Yeah.
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 So,
Yeah. So I think starting to have those conversations now, because if we don't start to have those conversations about this is how the Shout family, thinks about family beyond just the 18 years you're going to live here, the world is saying, go to college, go find a house wherever, go find a job wherever. Like immediate family is all that matters, just husband, wife, and kids. It doesn't matter if you're connected to grandma and grandpa. It doesn't matter if you're connected to aunts and uncles. There's just not this vision casted around that. Like you said, the church or the world aren't painting that picture.
that's right.
With this in mind, I want to ask you this question because this isn't too far on the horizon for you. What type? So interesting, because you've got a 20-year-old and you've got a baby.
That's right.
But what type of grandfather do you want to be? I mean, that has to. It's starting to be a reality that could be in the next 5 years or so. So when you think about that, what does that look like for you?
Well, it's funny. I'll give you a theory that I have, because my short answer is I don't think it's going to look any different. I think I'm going to love my grandkids like I love my kids. And lots of grandparents will tell me I'm wrong because they'll say, you don't know, it's different. Here's my again, this is just Joshua's theory. I think so often being a grandparent is quote unquote I've heard so many grandpas in particular, grandmas too. But man, I just, there's something different about my connection with my grandkids than my own kids. This is my interpretation of that. You didn't do the work on your own soul early enough to be able to connect to your own son or your own daughter in the way that you can more naturally connect with your grandchild. That's just, again, Joshua's philosophy. I think when we really do the work, then we can connect deeply with our children. And of course, we're going to connect super deeply with our grandchildren. So that's just, again, I think we have so many regrets as fathers, but age sometimes brings wisdom. And when we're 55 or whenever, 65, when we start having our first grandkids, we're like, you know what? The $1 million in the bank, either I have it or it's just not that big of a deal, or the accolades or the prestige, all that's like doesn't matter. So they've caught up to the reality that, dude, this is what it's about. And they get to start over again. So
Yeah, I think you're right. As you were saying that, I was like, presence, right? So I think maybe a lot of grandparents, they never figured out because they were busy with work and just trying to pay bills and whatnot. So they never were present with their kids, where all of a sudden now all that stuff that was so important when they were 35 to 45 doesn't matter anymore. And so now they're able to be present. And so that's where they're able to have that deeper connection because they're there, mentally.
That's right.
But I'm starting to bring this up because I want us men to think about the level of, the reality though is from 25 to 40, I may have to work a lot more than hopefully 55 to 70. It's just the truth, right? And so I want men to start thinking about not retirement as, I can't wait till I can do my own thing, but when I can have even more time to be a father and a grandfather, my influence level, if I allow it to be true, if I've earned that right, could be so significant as a grandfather.
Yes, 100%.
And I want dudes to start thinking about that. Um, okay, you may have already answered this question through some of the things you said, but I'm going to ask it anyways. This podcast is called Fatherhood Field Notes. You've been opening up your life, your field notes, your journals to us. The mantra behind it is rebel and create. And the idea is, as men, like, we want to be warriors. We want to fight against something. So what is something that you are rebelling against as a man? And what do you hope to create out of that rebellion? Now, that could be, I'm rebelling against, sitting around the TV and watching dinner so that we can have dinner on the table, or I'm rebelling against, what the church says family should be because X, Y, or Z. So when you hear those words, rebel and create, what's something you feel like you are rebelling against, and what do you hope to create out of it?
So several things come to mind. One would be there's two things you'll hear, man, toddlers, it's just tough. Terrible twos, terrible threes, whatever. And
Hmm.
teenagers are tough, right? Dude, teenage girl, I got a 12-year-old, 10 who's going on 13, and I've got an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old. And I heard it 50 times or more. Dude, when they
Yeah.
hit teen years, it might be good now. Or I hear it, with my oh man, you're in the terrible twos. What I rebel against is that your teenage years have to be like disconnected. Mine weren't. Even in the middle of, we went through a divorce and stuff. Like, I'm not advocating that. That's terrible. But your teenage years with your girls, and I'm not quite there. I'm 12, and your boys can be beautiful. I mean, you got to
Hmm.
adjust him as a father, but it can be beautiful. And then toddlers, man, we bought into the BS of the culture of talk your kid through. Oh, buddy, why are you so upset that we have to leave the store? It's like we bought into a narrative that is really probably 50 years old and it's BS. And so we have chaos because our kids just aren't. There's no order. There's no discipline. So I rebel against those. And also, back at the Breckenridge thing, I went back to this Breckenridge event because there was a couples event, and there are several of these moms who are quote unquote ballers, and they are like they got this. She's a real estate agent. She's doing great. This other one starts a school, but I just felt this kind of prompting to just encourage both of them as moms because they're also moms. And so I just said, listen, I just want to tell you both. I don't remember their names right now. I just want to tell you both, like, I did this whole thing. Your highest call is to be a mom. And I just kind of spoke to that for probably, I
Mm.
don't know, 90 seconds. And they both were just like, thank you so. And they're both very successful. And, but they were like, nobody has done that to me. Nobody has said, wow, what you're doing as a mom is awesome. So I rebel the crap out of, I am so anti, man, you need to go make a mark on the world. You need to go do this and leave your kids and your wife or your husband behind. Man, that's like so, I mean, I think it's actually wicked. I think it's evil. And so I am so anti that message. And so anytime I was just doing it on Monday night. I hadn't seen them in a year. And I just sat across the dinner table. They had 3 kids. We had all of ours. And so it was kind of chaotic. But I just took a second. I said, listen, guys, I just want to encourage you. You guys are studs. Like you as a husband, you as a mother. And he texted me the next day. He's like, dude, I can't tell you how much that encouraged me. Like, just
Mm.
no one does that. No one says, man, you're doing a great job as a dad. Which sounds so,
Yeah,
what do you mean no one's encouraging you as a dad? Like,
I
he's a
know. It's
Christian. He goes to
crazy.
church. He's got Christian brothers. Nobody's doing it.
It's
Right.
crazy.
Yeah.
So two things I want to point out, and then I'll ask my final question is this C.S. Lewis quote. I just try to bring it up anytime I can when this comes up. But C.S. Lewis says, the homemaker has the ultimate career. All other careers exist for one purpose only, and that is to support the ultimate career. So good.
I love it.
So good. Yeah. So my question to you though is how do you teach that to your daughters without coming across as this like patriarchal, I have 7 kids, my wife stays at home and wears a dress and cooks and cleans and right? So how do you communicate that to your kids without it seeming like this 200-year-old, women submit and men are a-holes? Not that that's probably the reality, but what are your
No,
thoughts
that's
around that? Because I feel like it's, like my daughters perk up, dude, when I bring these kinds of conversations up. They're like, we don't need a man. We don't, and I don't necessarily fully agree with that. Like, I want them to be able to be independent, but I
Yep.
also want them to understand this yin yang. Like, I need my wife, bro. Like, I need her, not to
That's
do
right.
my cooking and cleaning, but I need this relationship. So, anyways, any thoughts around how you communicate these ideas to your daughters without coming across as like, I don't know?
Absolutely. No, I love it. It's a great question. It's such a critical question, especially in our kind of where things are at culturally right now. So my 12-year-old, she's got an Etsy. She just started. This is, I don't know, a month ago. She got her own little Etsy store. She is super gifted when it comes to design, creating things. So, and I'm blessing the crap. I mean, spending money for her to create this little business.
Love
So
it. Yeah.
it is not it. So I am blessing that hard. She is super smart in school. I am blessing. I love that, and I'm allowing her. I don't have to honestly convince her. She really is like on board, but she's on
Hmm.
board with this idea of I want to use my gifts, like be a designer, but to whatever degree asks me to sacrifice my children or my husband, or if it's my son, if I have to actually sacrifice my children or my wife in order to get this or get that, that's what I'm giving them vision for. No, it's not worth it. And that's what they're buying in. It's not a, hey, you have to be at the house woman thing. It's lead your family in such a way where it's so beautiful, where they see it as the highest thing. They're not like, it's not in a book. They're actually experiencing like, dude, this is beautiful. Like I want my children to, and then they see it. Like, wait a second, if I'm working, my husband's working, the kids are at childcare, we're not going to have what dad and mom have. So they start putting two and two together, right? It's not rocket science.
So, yeah, dude. So I think you just unlocked it for me, because I've been like, man, how do I communicate this narrative to my daughters? Not how do I communicate this narrative to my children? So I think I've still been on this mindset to some level. Like, my son needs to go like build an incredible business or incredible job. That's his first call.
Yeah,
That's, to me, how what you just said helps me go, wait a second. It's my son and my daughters. Don't put
that's it.
something else above family. Don't put something else above marriage, God, that. Whatever job you may or may not do, whether my daughters work or my son works or whatever they pursue, just don't pursue that career above this. So it goes
Yes.
for both sides. And that, I
100.
think, is the new story to make sure that we're communicating to our children. Not, kid, son, you need to get a great job to provide, and wife, you need to stay home. No, no, no. Wrong narrative. That's again about like what you don't do, which I think is the problem with religion. But what is it that
Yeah,
we do? And that's
that's right.
focus on the family. All right, dude, I want to
That's
honor your time. So I'm going to ask you my last question.
Yep.
Are you good?
Good.
Okay,
Great.
last question, legacy question. So imagine 30 years from now, 30 years from now, you're coming towards possibly, the last season of your life. As you look at your family, as you look into the homes of your children, what is it that you see playing out that puts a big smile on your face, knowing that you gave it your all with your time on this earth?
So no, there's this is going to be very obvious, but first, it's not 30 years from now, it's 70, because I'm planning on living to be 120. So I want to get the years right there. So 70 years.
Oh, love it, dude. 120. Okay, let's fast forward it. Okay, 70 years from now.
But I mean, again, literally all it is. If my son is I'm trying to fill in the blank with some job that our culture says isn't cool. Like he's a janitor. Literally, he's a janitor, but he does it with joy. But he's around the table with his kids, and they love him. He
Hmm.
loves his wife. I mean, and that's not BS. I'm not BS. Like he has enough money in the bank, but barely. He's got an average car, an average house. But man, his wife loves him. He loves her. His kids adore him. He adores them. That to me, and all my kids, so 7. So each of them, and they all want to have lots of kids. So if that's what I see, them loving and serving and caring and being humble and with their kids and their spouses, that's it. Lights out, man. I'm like,
Family.
that's it. Yep.
Love it. Love it. Josh, thank you so much for the time today. Thank you for sharing your life with us. Thank you for the way that you show up for your wife, your kids, for the community, being open, transparent, vulnerable, and honest as you're growing, allowing people to grow with you. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm grateful to be connected to you, and I look forward to staying connected and to future conversations with you.
Love and appreciate you so much, Ned. This has been great.
All right, bro. Until next time.
All right. See you.
What an incredible conversation. I so loved connecting with Josh. I mean, obviously we've had a few connections outside. And so there's this deeper understanding of our views and beliefs and philosophies and love for fatherhood, love for marriage, love for family. So many nuggets. And one of the things that he said that really stuck out to me was just that fatherhood is the highest call. Like, above all else, fatherhood, marriage, and family matters. And at the end there, what really unlocked for me is how to share this narrative of family being most important, that it's not just about having your daughters know that, but I mean, exactly what this whole podcast exists for. You know, and I think that there's still this subliminal belief that I have, or this unconscious belief that I have, that my role selling insurance and bringing home money is more important at times than me being a husband and me being a father. And so the narrative that needs to shift is that what I do outside the home really doesn't define Ned. It's not what I do, it's who I am. It's my being. And I could literally do anything. Like Josh said, be a janitor. It doesn't matter. So the narrative, you guys, is that family, family, family. That is what's going to fulfill the deepest desires we have: to be loved, needed, to be known, to be respected, valued, and to leave a legacy, right? To leave a mark on this earth that goes well beyond our own lives. And guys, we talked about this, that many men do not have a vision for their life. And that's why I launched Adventure of Fatherhood. Go check it out, adventureoffatherhood.com. If you're a new dad, I have a course for you, Discover or Introduction to Fatherhood, where you can understand your identity. And then if you're a dad with a 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old, 20-year-old, and you're like, I'm still stumbling through what it means to be a father, I have the Discover Fatherhood course, which you can go on and take. It's videos of me. It's interactive. You will learn so much of your identity. Once you go through those, I have the 18-year roadmap where I roll with a group of dudes for 90 days. It is boot camp, revealing to you the power of your role as a father. These are not parenting courses. These are identity courses. So adventureoffatherhood.com. Hey, if you're loving the podcast, please write a review, give it 5 stars, help spread the word that fatherhood matters. Thank you, all you dads out there listening to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast. What you do matters. Don't be like everybody else. Be yourself. That is who your kids, your spouse, and community needs. This is your guide, Ned Shout. Together, let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact and create lives engaged in mastering the craft of fatherhood. I look forward to hanging out with you next time.